It was 1995, Germany. Inside a humid little pet shop, a hobbyist is looking at a tank of marble crayfish and notices something that shouldn't be happening. One single, slaty blue crayfish was multiplying, all by itself. No partner, no mating, nothing. Just hundreds of fertile eggs appearing out of thin air. It stopped the scientific community cold. A mutation. Something bigger and stranger than anything we'd ever seen in a lab. Now, at first, biologists did what any sane scientist would do. They assumed it was a mistake. Self-cloning in complex animals. It's a freak occurrence. It's a myth. The idea of a crustacean the size of a cigar doing this felt like a massive stretch, but something was off. The DNA was the wrong shape. The chromosomes didn't match the ancestors. Not even close. Then came the shock. This wasn't just a weird pet. This was the marmorkrebs. See, that pet shop wasn't just where it started. It was ground zero. A total biological anomaly triggered by the accidental birth of a brand new species. Shells, claws, antennae. Entire populations that are carbon copies of each other. It was the most aggressive invasion anyone had ever seen. And here's the weird part. As the lab started looking at more samples, thousands of them, along with field reports, it became undeniable. This wasn't some fluke. It wasn't an exaggeration. The specimens were consistent. They were everywhere. It was unlike anything in the record. What we found was an animal so adaptable it basically reset the bar for what an invasive species could actually be. The news hit like a thunderclap. When the research team first sequenced that genome, they ran the numbers over and over. They were convinced they'd messed up the math, but they hadn't. The measurements showed a creature with 3 sets of chromosomes. 3. Researchers were stunned. If those numbers were real, the marbled crayfish wasn't just a cool aquarium find. It was the fastest spreading threat on the planet. It meant our freshwater ecosystems were way more fragile than we thought. A creature this efficient? It only happens when biology is pushed to the absolute limit. What kind of planet grows monsters like this? The marbled crayfish was absurdly productive. Conservative estimates, a single female can drop 700 eggs per brood. But it gets worse. Some counts go as high as 1,000 offspring every few months. And remember, 0 males. None. For context, your average wild crayfish needs a partner, a mating ritual, and they produce way fewer survivors. The marmorkrebs was twice as fertile and 10 times more dangerous. But here's what I find fascinating. How do you even track the impact of an escaped pet? Well, ecology usually follows these predictable laws. The speed of the spread usually links back to genetic diversity. So, biologists track an infestation, compare it to normal things like lobsters or crabs, and try to guess what's next. But there's a deeper question. Why is this thing so much better at surviving than anything else alive today? The answer is the cloning. They are triploids. 3 sets of chromosomes instead of 2, and that shapes everything. Their resilience, their growth, how fast they move. Think about it like this. The more identical the population is, the faster the expansion runs. Faster expansion means they hog all the resources, and they can hold onto a massive territory without trying. When scientists found the marmorkrebs, they weren't just looking at a hardy pet. They were looking at a genetic ticking clock, and it pointed to a world that was way more connected than we realized. To really get the marbled crayfish, you have to understand its world. Go back 30 years, mid-90s, right when the pet trade was exploding. Everything was globalizing. Markets were moving. The industry was becoming something we wouldn't even recognize now. Shipping was fast. In places like Madagascar, the wild populations exploded into the millions. No predators, nothing to stop them. Imagine a wetland that never stops crawling, even in the mud. A world where the water itself feels like a constant carpet of shells. No checks, no balances. Just relentless reproduction moving from pond to pond. Rice fields were ruined. Native species just vanished in the sun. The clones grew fast because for a self-replicator, cloning removes the biggest hurdle there is. But today's wetlands, the Everglades, the Rhine, they're too vulnerable for a species like this to ignore. Modern crawfish are hitting the limit of what the climate allows. But to get to marmorkrebs territory, you need a world that's been cranked up for decades. The marbled crayfish didn't do it alone. It needed our global network to kickstart the takeover. It needed to pump those genes through 50 different countries. The Madagascar sites show it all. Layer after layer of shell fragments. Decimated snails. Native fish that never stood a chance. They weren't just scavengers, they were high-speed competitors. It wasn't a balanced ecosystem. It was a modern nightmare. Murky water, irrigation canals, flooded fields. You couldn't see a thing, just the sound of muffled rain and clicking shells. In a place like that, numbers are everything. A clone army hiding in the mud, supported by sheer volume. They were fast, they were greedy. They'd outcompete every rival for months. The marmorkrebs isn't an accident. It's the logical outcome of a world with high mobility and global trade. Now you'd think that's it, It's not. How did they actually take over? Well, forget the movies. This wasn't some hyper-aggressive monster chasing people on land. This wasn't a land-walking crab or a tree-climbing lobster. It's a crayfish. It's too aquatic for that. 5 inches of shell doesn't scuttle well over dry ground. It dries out, it slows down. It fights dehydration every inch of the way. But in water, everything changes. In those swamps, the marmocrabs acted less like an animal and more like a virus. Slow, silent, half-buried. It used the murky water as a shield. It slipped between trash and rice stalks without making a ripple. For something this small, being invisible was just a lifestyle. It didn't fight, it didn't duel, it just waited. Hours, days, almost motionless until there were enough of them to just overwhelm everything. And when it hit, it was terrifying. The models show they can exert 100% displacement pressure. That's enough to kill a local fishery in one season. Normal crabs need diversity, but for the marmocrabs, the distinction doesn't even matter. The result was the same. Whatever it moved into, it took over. We know they ate native snails. Slow, easy calories, perfect for an invader. Tadpoles that never had a chance to grow up. Algae, plants, anything in the pipes. Possibly fish fry if they got too close to the bottom. Water wasn't just where it hunted, it was a lifeline. That buoyancy supported them while they molted. Without it, they'd struggle. They'd dry out, they'd die, and water helped them spread. They move with the flow. In our interconnected world, water is the highway that lets them maintain that massive population. So when you think of the marbled crayfish, don't think of a nightmare serpent on land. Think of it gliding through a dark pipe, shells just under the surface, waiting to spread. But here's the question. If they're so good at this, why haven't they won yet? Well, the answer is simple, and it's kind of tragic. The world is fighting back, and the marmocrabs can't adapt. Humans realize the danger. Trade bans started happening all over the world, and for a clone, that is a death sentence. That's the thing about being a clone. Your life depends on your genetics. When a disease hits, the whole population is at risk. There's no recovery, no resistance. It's impossible. Mortality goes through the roof. For something as specialized as this, it's catastrophic. They need stability, but with zero genetic variation, they can't change. They can't survive new parasites. They can't evolve. Essentially, they're starving in slow motion. And it wasn't just the bans. The environment is shifting. Native species are starting to figure it out. They're finding the weaknesses. They're diverse, which means they can find a way in, even when the clones are everywhere. They're taking back the resources. Meanwhile, the rice fields are being managed better. The irrigation is closing up. The unregulated world they loved is disappearing, and other predators are moving in. Bullfrogs, fish. The niche is tightening. That's not even the craziest thing. The marmocrabs might die out. Not because it failed, but because it's too perfect. It might die because its genome stayed the same for 30 years. That's all it takes. One tiny shift in biology, and the strangest creature we've ever seen just stops existing. And that should make us think, because genetics isn't just about the individual, it's the limit of what life can even do. The marbled crayfish should never have existed. It was too identical, too efficient, too dependent on a world that was always going to close its gates. But for a second, everything lined up perfectly. And for 30 years, this weird clone ruled the swamps. And then, just as fast as it showed up, it might vanish, leaving behind nothing but empty shells and questions.